Welcome to Value Plays Only, where Opposition Agent isn't even a counterspell. Today we have John, playing Zur the Enchanter. This is an enchantment toolbox deck. It leverages Zur's ability to pivot between Necropotence wins and heaps of stacks or card advantage. His hand contains an Esper Sentinel, Drannith Magistrate, Mystical Tutor, Grasp of Fate, Command Tower, Spire of Industry, and a Gemstone Caverns. Dan is playing Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This deck looks to slowly control the game until he can cast Tivit. From there, the deck can win with Thrasios Oracle or Time Seed. His hand contains a Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, Dark Ritual, Muddled Mixture, Grafdigger's Cage, Sea of Clouds, and Windswept Teeth. Nick, from the Topdeckers, is playing Thrasios, Triton Hero, and Tymna the Weaver. This deck leverages two card advantage engines in the command zone to piece together either an Infinite Mana or Thrasios Oracle win. His hand contains a Carpet of Flowers, Training Grounds, Gemstone Caverns, and Ancient Tomb. His three London Mulligans are Hazel's Brewmaster, Eternal Witness, and Force Negation. Tyler is playing Rograkh, Son of Rograkh, and Silas Renn, Secret Adept. This is the fastest deck in the format. It uses Rograkh to its highest potential, blazing out Grixis flavored wins as early as turn 1 or 2. His hand contains a Necropotence, Red Elemental Blast, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Diamond, Watery Grave, and Mana Confluence. His London Mulligan is a Final Fortune. And with that, let's see some value plays. Nick has a pregame action, putting Gemstone Caverns onto the battlefield, exiling Training Grounds. John starts things off with a Command Tower. He casts an Esper Sentinel. John passes the turn. Dan plays a Verdant Catacombs as land for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. He casts a Lotus Petal. Esper triggers and John draws. He casts a Grafdigger's Cage. Nick and Tyler groan as John cheers. Dan then passes the turn. Nick plays an Ancient Tomb as land for turn. He casts a Carpet of Flowers. Esper triggers and John draws. He moves to a second main phase and adds a blue mana from Carpet. He then casts Fairy Mastermind. Doing pretty well from his mull to 4, Nick then passes the turn. Tyler plays a Watery Grave as land for turn. Into play untap, paying 2 life. He casts a Mox Diamond. Esper triggers and he pays. Diamond resolves and he discards Mana Confluence as it enters. He casts his commander, Rograkh, Son of Rograkh, and passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays Gemstone Caverns as land for turn. He casts a Drannith Magistrate. All 3 opponents groan this time, and Drannith resolves. John goes to combat and swings Esper Sentinel at Dan. He takes the damage, and John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Windswept Teeth as land for turn. He pays life and cracks it, fetching up a Tundra. Dan then passes the turn. Nick untaps and draws. He goes to combat, swinging Fairy Mastermind at Tyler. He takes the damage, and Nick passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He casts a Lion's Eye Diamond. Esper triggers and he pays. Tyler then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Spire of Industry as land for turn. Looking to make this game more fun, John casts Counterbalance. Over the sound of all the groans from the table, it resolves. John goes to combat, swinging Esper Sentinel at Tyler and Drannith at Dan. They take the damage, and John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Sea of Clouds as land for turn. Dan casts Blind Obedience. Esper and Counterbalance trigger. John declines to show, and Dan pays for Esper. Blind Obedience resolves, and Dan passes the turn. In his end step, Nick casts Vampiric Tutor. Esper and Counterbalance trigger. John reveals a Force of Will, and then Nick pays. Vamp Tutor resolves, and Nick searches up a card to the top of his library and loses 2 life. The turn then moves to Nick. Nick untaps and draws. In his first main phase, he adds mana through his Carpet. He casts Rhystic Study. Counterbalance and Esper trigger. Nick pays, and then John doesn't reveal. Rhystic Study resolves. Fully recovered from his mulligan, Nick passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He did not get the draws he needed and has to pass the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Verdant Catacombs as land for turn. He pays a life and cracks it, fetching up an Underground Sea. He taps out for his commander, Zur the Enchanter. Rhystic triggers and Nick draws. John then goes to combat, swinging Esper at Tyler and Drannith at Dan. They take the damage and John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Meticulous Archive, into play tapped. It triggers to Surveil, leaving it on top. Dan then passes the turn, locked out by Drannith. Nick untaps and draws. In his first main phase, he adds 3 blue mana from his Carpet of Flowers. He casts a Wan Shi Tong Librarian with X equals 4. It enters with 4 counters and Nick draws 2 cards. He then passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. Knowing John has Force of Will in hand, Tyler goes into politics mode. He asks if John would let him crack LED and pitch his hand to try and cast Rhystic Study. John tells him he won't cast any counters from his hand, but he will reveal off Counterbalance. Tyler has nothing else going for him and takes this opportunity. He casts Tainted Pact, Esper, Counterbalance, and Rhystic Trigger. Nick and John draw, and John declines to flip. Tyler holds priority and cracks LED, adding 3 blue and discarding his hand. He starts exiling, and exiles around 15 or so cards before he finds Rhystic Study, adding it to hand. He casts Rhystic Study. Rhystic triggers and Nick draws. Counterbalance triggers and reveals a Manamo, School at Water's Edge. Rhystic Study resolves, and Tyler passes the turn, finally feeling like he's in this game. John untaps and draws. He plays a Manamo, School at Water's Edge as land for turn. He casts a Smothering Tithe. 2 Rhystic trigger, and Tyler and Nick draw. John then goes to combat. At the beginning of combat, Dan casts Path to Exile, targeting Zur. Esper, Counterbalance, and 2 Rhystic's trigger. Tyler draws Smothering Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. Dan pays for Nick and John, and then Counterbalance reveals a Flusterstorm, countering Path. John then goes to combat, declaring Drannith at Nick, Esper at Tyler, and Zur at Dan. Zur triggers and John goes searching. He wants to make sure he has all the fun and searches up a steel enchantment to the battlefield, enchanting and taking control of Nick's Rhystic Study. Wan Shitong triggers to draw and get a counter. Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. Everyone then takes the damage. Happy with how his turn went, John passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. Smothering Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. Dan casts a Chrome Mox. Rhystic, Esper, and Counterbalance trigger. John reveals a Toxic Deluge. Dan pays for both of John's effects and Tyler draws one. Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. Chrome Mox resolves and Dan imprints a Dark Ritual under it. He then casts an Archivist of Ogma. 2 Rhystics and Counterbalance trigger. Dan pays for John's and then John declines to reveal off Counterbalance. Tyler draws 1. Fairy Mastermind and Smothering Tithe trigger. John makes a tap treasure and Nick draws a card. Tithe makes another treasure. With all that out of the way, Ogma resolves and Dan passes the turn. Nick untaps and draws. Smothering Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. In his main phase, Carpet makes 3 blue mana. Nick plays a Water Grave as land for turn, and to play untap, paying 2 life. He casts a Mockingbird with X equals 1. Rhystic, Counterbalance, and Rhystic trigger. Nick pays, John declines, and then Tyler draws. Smothering Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. Mockingbird resolves as another Fairy Mastermind. Nick goes to combat and swings Wan Shitong at John. He takes the damage, and Nick passes the turn, discarding a hand size. Tyler untaps and draws. Tithe triggers and Tyler really debates paying, but the tables say it's better for him to hope he draws into answers. John makes a tap treasure. Tyler takes no game actions and passes the turn. In his end step, Nick casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting Zur. Rhystic, Counterbalance, Rhystic, and Esper trigger. Nick pays for John's triggers, and then John declines to reveal. Tyler draws. Smothering Tithe and 2 Fairy Masterminds trigger. Nick draws 2, Tithe triggers 2 more times, and then John makes loads of treasures. John then responds to Swords by casting Swan Song. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe makes a treasure. Tyler steps in here with a Mental Misstep, targeting Swan Song. Counterbalance, Esper, and Rhystic trigger. Tyler pays for 1, then John draws, and then Counterbalance reveals an Otawara, Soaring City. With that, Misstep counters Swan Song, and Zur is exiled. John gains 1 life. Finally, the turn moves to John. John untaps and in his upkeep, he casts a Mystical Tutor. Rhystic triggers and he pays. Mystic resolves, and John searches up a Mnemonic Betrayal to the top of his library. Ogma and Wan Shitong trigger. Nick draws, and then Dan draws and gains a life. Tithe triggers twice to make tap treasures. John then draws his Mnemonic Betrayal for turn. He casts a Ranger Captain of Eos. Rhystic triggers and John pays. Priority passes around to Nick and he casts Force of Will, paying a life and exiling into the Floodmaw as an alternate cost. Rhystic, Esper, Counterbalance, and Rhystic trigger. Tyler draws, then Tithe triggers to make a treasure. Then John reveals an offer you can't refuse and then draws 2. 2 Fairy Masterminds then trigger to draw. Tithe triggers twice to make tap treasures. John casts an offer you can't refuse, targeting Force of Will. Rhystic triggers and he pays. Nick responds with a Pact of Negation, targeting Ranger Captain of Eos again. Rhystic, Counterbalance, and Rhystic trigger. Tyler draws, Tithe makes a tap treasure, Counterbalance reveals a Flusterstorm, and then John draws. John then casts a Force of Will, paying a life and exiling Wan Shitong as an alternate cost. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe triggers to make a tap treasure. The despair at the table hits an all-time high, knowing the Flusterstorm is still in John's hand. With that, Force of Will counters Pact of Negation, and then an offer counters Force of Will. Nick makes 2 treasures and then goes to use them when the table points out the Blind Obedience and the treasures enter tapped. A wave of sadness washes over the table as Ranger Captain finally resolves and triggers to search. John holds priority and sacrifices it to lock out his opponents from casting non-creature spells this turn. He then searches up a Walking Ballista to hand. Ogma and Wan Shitong trigger. Both players draw, 2 Tithe triggers and 2 Fairy Masterminds trigger off of Dan. Nick draws 2 more and 2 more Tithe triggers go on the stack, making 4 total new tapped treasures. John casts Mnemonic Betrayal. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe makes a tap treasure. It resolves and John exiles all opponents' graveyards. John casts Tainted Pact from Tyler. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe makes a tap treasure. He starts exiling and exiles only 8 cards before he finds Heliod, the Sun Crowned. Stopping there, adding it to hand. John casts Lion's Eye Diamond. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe makes a tap treasure. He plays Otawara, Soaring City as land for turn. John casts Heliod. Rhystic triggers and Tyler draws. Tithe makes a tap treasure. He casts Walking Ballista with X equals 2. It enters and John sacrifices LED, discarding his hand to add 3 white. He activates Heliod to give Ballista lifelink. He activates Ballista, removing a counter to ping an opponent for 1. Heliod triggers to put a 1/1 counter back on Ballista. John uses this loop to machine gun down his opponents 1 life at a time until they're all dead. And with that, John wins the game. So, what did we learn today? Enchantments are good. Pair them with the Drannith Magistrate and you have a recipe for success. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays. You have a pregame and a 4.
I know.
Yeah.
This was the best hand I couldn't go to 3.
That's cool.
I'm passing. Oh, I play a rock. My bad.
Damn, dude. I really wish he didn't remember that Rograkh.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Damn, he's too smart.
And he got a card out of you.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I milked him and now
Big
he's
goof.
dead.
I don't like that. I don't like hearing that, actually.
Big goof, Dan.
Dan hates it when I milk him.
Can we stop? I'm gonna...
You could make, like, Thrasios, though, right?
Oh, we have a Draenith.
You got Dran.
I forgot I could make I didn't even mean to, like, do that. I was like, you have commanders, right?
Oh my god.
Wow.
He does that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
The game's awesome. Counterbalance.
This is a miserable game.
I will go to combat. Hell yeah, it is fun. Thank you.
John,
Yes, sir.
the man who holds my fate.
What are you gonna do? Something fucked up?
I would like to try to bargain with you a little
Sure.
bit. A little politicking.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know.
Bargaining.
Someone else might like shoot it down. If I crack my whole hand and go get and I flip until I hit Ristic, which you never know where that's at.
You're gonna
Would you allow that?
consult for Ristic?
Yeah.
I'll tell you
And
the
all I
deal
have
I'll
is a
make you.
Ristic.
I will not cast Force of Will. I will flip this for 3. And I don't know what it is.
I like that deal. I mean,
But I won't cast anything.
Are you
to
gonna
stop
say
it.
no, Dan?
Have fun.
Yeah, I hear you're cool with it. I don't like this counterbalance nonsense.
I'm telling you. What are the odds that it hits
It
this
is
time?
100%. It always is 100% with me. I'll do it for some content.
Great. Because you're also going to draw him like 3 cards on the way, which I don't love, but it's fine. 0.
oh my god.
Alright, I have a Ristic on the stack.
I pass.
Still
Enjoy
has
my
so many
spoils.
awful cards in it.
He's gonna get a lot of treasures off of us.
Yeah, because they have no restraint.
He'll be drawing every card, I'm telling you.
Gosh, this game's...
It's awesome.
God.
This game's incredible. I will have Steel Enchantment enter Enchanting
Oh.
Ristic. This game's awesome, guys.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really ready to pass.
Okay.
I feel good.
Yeah. I don't think I could be in a more powerful spot.
If you didn't have that force, I had the REB for Zur at your end step, but I'm like, dude, if I REB Zur, he is never gonna let anything I try to do
Yeah.
resolve, and I'm like, I gotta be a little political here.
Yeah. Guys, this game's awesome.
So I'm gonna tap it.
When you got it,
I don't know why
you
people would
got
say
it.
it is a bad deck. They enter tapped. We're in a
Oh
idiots.
gosh, I forgot about that.
Oh, wait a minute. Traders?
I can't discard the Ballista.
Thasos and Tana Pack.
I don't do that. I'm
That's
doing a
just
Zur
great.
win.
That's like-
I'm doing a Zur
Do your
win.
thing, guy. But
Fuck you. I'm doing a Zur thing. Wow. That was harder than it should have been.